Good evening, Hadley Wood, and welcome back to HWJC Live. This is episode 9, where I will be joined by Jo Rosenblatt and Antonia Lester, both of whom are quite involved with Food Bank Aid. Just a brief introduction to who Food Bank Aid are, and obviously we're going to hear more about them very soon. Food Bank Aid was set up to help independent North London food banks, and they are a group of volunteers collecting, sorting, and delivering much-needed food and household goods for 16 North London food banks, and their Facebook group has already has 1.5 thousand members, and they are still growing. Now, all of this is super impressive, but even more impressive that this has only been going on for a total of 9 months. They only they only were founded in April, 2020. So really a very recent development. And we as a community, Hadley Wood, have joined these efforts through the efforts of Antonia. We started with a small box outside my house. That box was overflowing after around, I think, a day or two. The next week, we had 2 boxes. Those 2 boxes weren't enough either. Now we have a big, massive box outside my front door, which is, I think, it holds about 250 liters. And that was full the first time we had that box. So we are donating an incredible amount as a community. And thank you so much to you as a community for really joining in these efforts. Before I bring on Jo and Antonia, I would like to just show you a very short clip. This is a ITV London interview or ITV London program, sort of given Food Bank Aid some airtime for a few minutes. So please do watch this. It will give you more of a sense of who Food Bank Aid are. And I'll be with you very shortly.
Nick, the number of people using food banks across London has been on the rise. Now, to help food banks keep up with greater demand, a woman has turned her home in Highgate into a distribution centre, helping hundreds struggling to feed their families. Anna Geary reports.
It's all hands on deck at this multi-million-pound property in North London. The homeowner converted her garage into a food bank distribution centre to help those struggling in the pandemic.
It's a response to there are so many people in desperate need. It was obvious that when COVID happened there was going to be a lot of redundancies, and people maybe who had never ever thought about going to food banks before would suddenly find themselves without cash and having real financial problems.
Naomi's driveway acts as a drop-off point for donations. Her army of volunteers then help with organising and taking supplies to 16 food banks nearby. With more time on his hands as people stay home, taxi driver Howard is involved in the deliveries.
As well as rewarding, it's very humbling when you do deliveries to food banks and people are queuing up 2 hours before the food bank opens, just so they know they're going to get food. That's very humbling.
And recruiting volunteers like Howard has proved easy, with a heavy footfall of walkers and joggers passing the home, given its proximity to Hampstead Heath. Support which has proved essential to the cause, particularly during the October half-term, when the team were inundated with supplies. after footballer Marcus Rashford launched his high-profile campaign to get free meals for children during the holidays. The founders of Food Bank Aid hope their project might inspire others.
Kind of longer term plan, if anyone wanted to, was to recreate this model. I suppose we created a franchisable model that anyone in South London or Manchester or Glasgow could recreate and work for their area, because it really does work.
But for now, they're asking for supplies to keep coming in the months ahead, where typically donations go down as bills go up. Anna Geary, ITV News.
So there you have it. I was for one greatly inspired by this video. I mean, we've been donating for a few weeks and months already, but just to see where the food goes and to see that actually the food we're donating is going somewhere and is really helping people, for me, really motivated me actually to do this more and to really get involved more. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Jo. Jo, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me just unmute you there.
I've unmuted myself.
Jo, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us.
Fine. Thank you for having
me. Jo, just by the way, for anyone who's wondering, is no relation to mine. We happens to have the same surname as myself, but we, as far as I know, aren't related in any way.
I don't think so.
Yeah, great surname. Great surname.
You're Liverpool Rosenblatts and we're London Rosenblatts. I think that's where the difference lies.
Yeah, exactly. People often get us confused, but we are not connected in any way. Still close at heart, but we're not connected. blood relatives. So, Jo, unfortunately, as you meant, I mean, as I forgot to mention at the first, but we were meant to have Naomi on, but this is Naomi's big night of the week. She is sorting and doing all sorts of stuff, which maybe Jo can explain as well. So Naomi, unfortunately, can't join us, but Jo is a great representative as well. Jo, could you please give us a bit more, understanding as to how Food Bank Aid was started, where it all came from, and how it became what it is now?
So I didn't find it. Naomi did. So we were talking about this the other day, because we talk about the fact, obviously, that when COVID hit, there was a lot of talk about and concern about people not being able to no work around and incomes drying up and things like that. And very, very quickly, food banks saw a huge demand and increase in footfall. And Naomi tells a story. Well, if she was here, she would tell you that it was the night before Pesach, or no, it must have been a few days before Pesach. So back in, I think, end of March, early April. I can't even remember when it was this year. And she suddenly thought to herself, hold on, people are potentially getting rid of chametz, and where's that going to go? And it's crazy, because there are all these people in need and potentially we're about to not eat a load of our food. So she contacted her local MP, Mike Freer, and she said to him, is it possible for you to contact all of the Rabbonim in around northwest London and ask them to kind of put a bit of a campaign out and request that people give their chametz. Not everyone does this. I just pat mine up in a cupboard and that's where it goes. But a lot of people did. And I think both Naomi and I are a member of Hampstead suburb shul. And from what I know, there were a few shuls that gave in North London. They had collection boxes outside the shul, and we did, I think, Naomi managed to pull together one big carload of, which is probably about 40 to 50 bags, which was amazing. And she had contacted this, there's a food bank, an amazing food bank actually in N7 in kind of Holloway. And it all went there. And then she started having conversations and she understood that there was this real need. And she put, we can never quite remember how we met, but I didn't know her at this time. And we, I think there was a shul, at the time when COVID first hit, we went with that first lockdown and everyone was trying to help everyone. So we met through, I think, a WhatsApp group for our shul. And she said, I'm looking for people to help. And I've got a bit of I work in PR and marketing. And I said I'd help out a little bit. And then it kind of just all kicked off from there. Wow. And it's kind of escalated.
Amazing how one person with one idea can create something so big. At this stage, I think I'm going to bring on Antonia. Antonia, thank you. You've been waiting very patiently over there. And thank you for joining us as well. How did you get involved, Antonia? What was it about this that really motivated you to get on board as well?
Well, I think the whole concept is brilliant. I've always been very interested in food banks and the work that they do. I used to do quite a bit with the Felix Project and also with HAB, Homeless Action in Barnet. So it's something I've always, thought was just the most phenomenal cause. And as Jo said, during COVID, or when COVID first hit, I think what food banks are and who their audiences are completely shifted, because we all probably have an idea of what we think a food bank does and who it services. And I think those people are still in need. But suddenly there was a whole new audience, people who never, ever would have dreamed that they would have needed to go to a food bank, suddenly couldn't feed their children. And it was a massive crisis, along with everything else that was going on in the world. And Jo and I have a very good mutual friend, and I was walking, as everyone does, with our very good mutual friend, and she told me what Food Bank Aid had been doing, and I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. At the time, it was quite localised, I think, Jo, correct me if I'm wrong, to sort of Hampstead Garden Suburb, Highgate, Hampstead, and obviously out here in Hadley Wood, we were a bit sort of further afield. And then a few months ago, one of the mums at my kids' school in Southgate started doing a collection, and when I spoke to her, she said, well, it'd be great if you could do one at your school, and the rest is history. But to be honest, I am just a tiny cog in a much bigger wheel, and I think I just wanted to thank our community as well, because the way they've embraced this has completely and utterly blown me away, to be perfectly honest.
What I find really remarkable, just from the way both of you have really jumped on board with this, is that you both have young families. You're not exactly your time isn't necessarily so free, and the fact that you're able to balance your work life, your family life, and Food Bank Aid, which is volunteering, which is pure volunteering, is amazing. How have you been able to do that? I guess let's start with Jo.
Well, it's kind of built, I suppose. Well, first of all, I have a very brilliant husband who helps me a lot, and it helps that he's at home, I have to say. Also, you just fit things in, and half of my motivation to do this is because of my kids. I don't know about you, Antonia, but a lot of it is to show them what this all means. And what's so nice, I think, about and meaningful about Food Bank Aid is the very act of putting stuff in a bag and giving tins rather than giving money, which kids can't see and doesn't mean as much to them. To know that those things that you put in a bag will end up going through a system and hopefully ending up being a meal for a family means so much more to kids. So I think for me, that is a lot of my motivation, I suppose, has been the kids and my kids seeing it. And the schools, we've had loads and loads of schools involved, which has been when they were open, which has been brilliant. And I don't know, you just fit it in. You just
yeah. What about yourself, Antonia? Is that the challenge?
Very similar, actually. For me, a really sort of surprising, I suppose, benefit of all of this has been getting my children involved. First of all, it gets them away from being in front of screens, which, quite frankly, anything I can do to help with that. Ironically, she says, over a virtual meeting. But it's really, really helpful, and it's useful to, as Jo said, make them understand how privileged they are. They go to the fridge all day, every day, and there's food in it. And sometimes I think they don't understand how lucky they are to be in that situation. So they come with me, they come to your house and they help me empty the bin every week, come rain or shine. And they help me with the drop-offs, and they help, I usually go to the supermarket once a week and take one of them with me, and we buy things for the food bank. So it is, you're right, it's about seeing every step of that process. And I think this will stay with them for a long, long time. So, it's been an unexpected benefit.
Wow. And so this next question on my mind is probably going to be more applicable to Jo than it is to Antonia. But how much do you get to see, the impact it's making on the receiving end? Meaning, do you see how much people are benefiting from this?
I do. So, obviously, we don't spend a lot of time at the food banks. COVID has kept us all very separate. But I have been to many of them actually now, either doing drop-offs or we've had bar mitzvah collections. People have collected for their own celebrations and taken it there, and we've done things there. But but we are in touch every single day with the most unbelievable group of food bank managers. These are either voluntary positions or very low paid positions, and these managers, 17 of them now, because we support 17 food banks, they're just incredible. Day or night, they are at the end of a phone to anybody that needs help. So we do speak to them a lot, and they send me, because I'm always asking them, please send me photos, please send me quotes from people, and they'll always send me brilliant things, quotes and messages that they've got saying, you know, you've changed my life, you've made my day better, you've made my week. Christmas was huge, that people were suddenly given food packages to actually make their Christmas vaguely pleasant. Yes, I do see it all the time, and you know, it's you go. We often deliver to the food banks, and you see people coming and queuing and waiting, and you think that none of the, you know, there's still this huge stigma around food banks and around asking for food, and it's a completely different ball game now. I remember really early on, I went to Ringcross. There's one of the food banks we help, and the manager there said to me, it's really interesting. The people on benefits now are the rich people. They are the people that have got an income all the time. They're settled. They know what's coming in. Who we are helping now is the people that suddenly have lost every source of income and have to pay their rent. So it's even people like waiters and waitresses in hotels, chambermaids, restaurant staff. There was nothing. There was no income at all for them. And they're all on 0 hours contracts, and they have no benefits, no right. And then to get into the credit, into the benefit system, it's not easy at all. And there's always this, I don't know if you've read about it, there's always a 6-week wait between applying for universal credit and it actually ending up. So it's a long time if you've got children at home and you've got no income at all. So those are the people that were suddenly knocking on the door. And we hear of so many people saying, I never, ever thought that I would ever need help like this. I'm ashamed and I'm embarrassed. But I have to feed. I'm currently, you know, we've got a lot of people now, it's winter, saying I'm choosing between turning my heating on and putting food on the table, or I'm choosing between giving my children lunch and giving them dinner. So it's, you know, it's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking, and it's not getting better, unfortunately.
No, but it must be amazing for you to be able to see these stories of hope, you know, through these challenging times and through this, you know, really difficult times, just to be able to see, I guess, humanness shining through, human kindness shining through as well.
Yeah. There's so much.
Have you got any, you know, particular specific stories that you know, particularly made an impact on you, or is it just in general that?
I mean, I remember someone sent me a video of, and we can't publish people we don't put any of that on social media at all, but one of the food bank managers sent me a video of a little girl opening her package of food. And you have never seen such joy and excitement on this little girl's face. And genuinely, she was so excited to have. It was like honestly, it was a loaf of bread and some sweets. She took out like a pack of sweets. It was around Christmas time, and it was like the greatest thing that had happened. I mean, it's just heartbreaking, but joy. They're happy. I mean, these kids, you know how kids are. They lived every day as it comes, and that's how it works. It's the parents, you know, the heartbreaking decisions that parents have to make. That's very hard, I think, to watch.
So I've got an interesting question, also another one I've been thinking about, so just firing questions at you over here, but this one's going to be relevant to you, Antonia, as well. Food Bank Aid was started by Naomi Russell, who is Jewish, and, you know, both of you guys are Jewish as well. Do you think there's anything about your Jewish upbringing which potentially inspired you or motivated you to really get so involved with this and give to our community and beyond?
Antonia, do you want to go first?
Sure. Well, I think for me, there's two things. I mean, I come from a family where philanthropy is just it's part of everything that, you know, my family have always believed in, and every side. It doesn't have to be on a grand scale. It can be on a very, very small scale. And in fact, sometimes that's more useful and more helpful. So it's just, you know, something that my parents always raised my brothers and I to do, is to help. You know, if you get £10 for your birthday, you give £1 to charity, or you do something and you go and help. And so we've always kind of put our hands up and helped. So there's that side of it. I think in terms of the Jewishness, for me, as ridiculous as it sounds, you know, food and eating and coming together for meals is so central to my sort of my cultural identity, that the thought that people didn't have the means to do that, choosing not to sit around a table and eat with someone, that's very different. Not having the means to be able to do that. And it's the stories, like Jo said, of parents having to choose. I mean, one of the stories that I was reading in the papers just before I got involved in this was, again, around half term, was of parents who had to not give themselves anything to eat in order to feed their children. And in this day and age, in this country, in my opinion, that shouldn't be happening. I mean, it's bonkers that that's happening. And there's so many incredible charities up and down the country, you know, working to help people in those situations. But I just felt that, generally speaking, and it is a great generalization, our community are fairly affluent. We're very lucky. And if there was something that we could do to contribute in some small way, then, you know, I'm all up for that.
Yeah.
I agree with all of those things. Yeah. Look, you know, the same. I think, you know, I was brought up, I think my mum's listening somewhere. I was brought up in a household where giving and doing charity and helping charitable organizations was an everyday part of the way we were brought up. It was just always, my mum was always at committee meetings and doing stuff, and she's very involved with charity, and my dad as well. But I don't think that necessarily is a Jewish thing. I mean, I do think it is. I think it's very intrinsic in our community to give and to help. And charity is very much at the heart of, you know, it's a pillar of Judaism, I suppose. And it's something we all teach our children, but I don't think that other non-Jewish people don't do the same thing at all.
Definitely not. Yeah.
But I definitely think that part of, I suppose, I haven't really thought about this, but me choosing to do this, first of all, it's a very hands-on thing. So I'm quite a hands-on type of person. I don't really love asking people for money. I'm not very good at organizing social events. I mean, that's just not my thing, but I'm very, this for me just all made sense. It was a bit of a no-brainer, and there was a kind of wartime spirit. Do you remember at the time where we were all pulling together? I remember speaking to I made the kids drop round notes saying, if you're isolating, I can help right at the beginning. And these ladies, like these old ladies, phoned and said, "Oh, you know, this reminds me of the time in the war when neighbourhoods pulled together." And I think that was kind of the foundation of all of this, that we can all work together.
And sorry, just to interrupt there, Jo, that for me is really important, is that what's lovely is that this organisation has its foundations in the Jewish community, but the reach goes so much beyond it. And I think that's fantastic and really, really, you know, key to what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly it. I mean, I think that we are all citizens of the world, and we're citizens of London. Let's help our neighbours. And, you know, Jewish charities obviously do wonderful things. And I have to point out that one of the food banks that we do help is Gift. So anything kosher that comes in goes to Gift. So they are one of our 17. And we've been supporting them from the beginning. I think I don't know their figures in like exactly, but I think they help about 300 families every week. So that was really important, I think, to us. And there are some people that would prefer to kind of support Jewish people, but so that is important. And they're amazing Gift. They do incredible work. So but I suppose this kind of idea of
I agree with you 100%. Yeah, the charity bit. I think charity is a human thing. I think giving is a human thing. It's just it's so stressed in our in our religion and our culture that it's just, I think it's often just in our bones that if there's a need out there, if there are people who are struggling and really need help, then it's our responsibility to be of service. I think that that word responsibility is really, for me, been shining through as you two were talking. It's you felt like this was something which you needed to do because it was upon you. if you wait for the government to do it, it might not happen. And frankly, the government were very tied up at that point in time. It was a nightmare for everyone. So it's amazing.
It was a crazy time. It was it feels like a lifetime ago, weirdly now, March, April, doesn't it? Yeah. But as I've said all the way through. So it all started off, and it still exists, that all all our neighbours, and you can organise a street collection very, very easily, which is what we really would like people to do. It's the best way to do it, really. Or like you do with the community, bringing it all into a central point. It means something. It's very, very a tangible thing that you can actually give. And so we will never go to fully financial donations. People do donate financially, I have to say, because there are a lot of people that can't get out and about shopping or can't drop off to their local drop-off point. And any money that comes in, we have an army of volunteer shoppers who will go to the massive Tesco in Brent Cross, and they will know exactly what to buy with £300, fill up their cars, and it goes straight to our hub and sorted out, and then out to the food banks. So, but I will never, and we always talk about this, we will never stop asking people to give bags of food, because it means too much, and
But the other thing that I think is very clever about the way that Food Bank Aid operates is that you give the weekly lists to people, so they know that not only are they giving, but what they're giving is genuinely what's needed. So it might be that this week you need pasta and next week you need tomato sauce, or, I think it's the idea of everyone giving the same things every week. As you say, if you're helping families who are coming week in, week out, actually they're entitled to eat different things. They don't want a bag that's got the same, whilst I'm sure they're enormously grateful, they do want, they're people and they want to cook different meals for their family. So knowing that, there's no sort of surplus at one food bank and that it's all being shared out and people are getting what they want, that's what I think is really brilliant about the whole organisation.
So that's a really interesting point, because what we found, I knew nothing really about how the food bank system worked, and actually it's a bit of a messed up system, I have to say. There is an organisation called the Trussell Trust, which looks after about 1,000, about half of the country's food banks are run through the Trussell Trust, which they're brilliant. And then there's another probably 1,000 independent food banks, which are in church halls or community centres, or any local, and they're often pop-up ones that have just, a lot of them just popped up in March to help people through COVID, and have found there's such need that they haven't been able to shut down as much as they've tried to. But they don't communicate, so it's bizarre. So we have created, this is really Naomi's, what has been brilliant about this. We've got, we're basically powered by WhatsApp, I have to say. So we have got a WhatsApp group with all our food bank managers, and they're all incredible people. And they will all say, right, this is what we're particularly short of. And then someone will say, you know what, I've just been given this load of, I don't know, baked beans, which I can't get rid of because no one wants them. I've given baked beans for weeks. Who needs them? And so we share it between us, rather than it going to waste. It gets properly shared, which is brilliant. So we've created a kind of network, a support network for them, because they were all really on their own, trying to just muscle through somehow. So that's been brilliant. But that's kind of,
that I think will end up probably being your legacy once we hopefully eventually get somehow out of this situation and some of these families hopefully get back on their feet again. I would imagine that these food banks and the way that they work with one another will benefit enormously from having this sense of community between them and communication between them. It's built bridges that probably were never there and never would have been had you not started doing what you're doing.
I wonder, Jo, when you first set this up, whether you could have imagined that it would still be going strong now in 2021.
No, I know. Yes. To be honest, yes, we always knew that there would always be demand, because every week it was getting worse, and every week there were more people turning up at the door. So we did know. And then, we're waiting. The furlough scheme hasn't even finished yet. When the furlough scheme ends, we're going to have a bigger problem on our hands. Like, genuinely, I think that there's going to be even more demand. The rent and mortgage relief that that's all going to stop, and we're going to be actually in probably the worst recession this country's ever been in, and it's going to get worse, unfortunately. But did we think that? No, we had no idea. In fact, we still don't know what we're doing, quite frankly. We have lots of conversations where we're so busy that we kind of think, what are we going to do? What happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? What happens if our volunteers suddenly don't want to come anymore? but we'd somehow we've kind of pushed through. I mean, Naomi, it's
do you ever have moments where you fear that you've maybe bitten off more than you can chew?
Every day. No, no, we've got a really good system now. We've got brilliant volunteers. We've got about 150 volunteers. It's a lot of it's about communication. So I mean, it's about getting out to people and speaking to them and responding to people, which is what I kind of spend a lot of time doing through social media. And we're always trying to think about new ideas. And then, you know, when we went into tier 3 and the restaurants shut down, there was this big kind of panic. We were suddenly thinking, hold on a second, all these restaurants have probably got all this stock, all this fresh food. What are we going to do with it all? So we went on this big mission to try and get all this food. And we got like 3 restaurants that gave us stuff, which was brilliant. And then when the schools didn't open again, we suddenly thought, God, there must be loads of food in these schools. We should try and get hold of that. And we're always thinking of these mad ideas. Like this week, Naomi texted me saying, the tennis clubs, we've got to get out of the vending machines out of the tennis club. So we're always kind of having these harebrained ideas. But those kinds of things, if you just, you know, you use your brain and social media, you know, for all of its flaws, this kind of thing is just phenomenal, just amazing. Really is.
So I really wonder as well whether this food bank aid, or just food banks in general, the fact that they've been so busy and mobbed really during this current crisis, has it highlighted a problem that was always there, or is it that people are so many more people are now in the need of food banks, or is it maybe a bit of both?
I mean, look, anyone, if you think about the concept of a food bank, it shouldn't be an answer. It shouldn't be something we need, but it also is very much a sticking plaster. It doesn't deal with the fundamental issues, which is what is causing hunger and poverty in this country. And being able to, you have to short term give people food so that they can get on and feed their children and their families and themselves. But ultimately, you've got to find out what the root of these issues are, and that is a much bigger issue. But would we, it's that whole, you can teach someone to fish thing, but you know, that's exactly it. But at the same time, are you going to stop supporting food banks just because you don't think that?
Look, I mean,
no, you can't.
Yeah, what you're saying is it's treating the symptoms, but the symptoms are there and they need to be dealt with. Until we can sort out the root causes, then people are actually hungry.
But I think people are quite surprised, or some people I've spoken to anyway are quite surprised, because they have, COVID aside, they have a preconceived idea of where food banks would be. And they're very surprised to find that there's so many food banks that, before COVID and long after COVID are so busy right on their doorstep. Because there is, as Jo says, such a stigma around it. And, people sort of sneak in and sneak out again because they're embarrassed and they don't want to be seen going to them. So I think, if anything, if this can open some people's eyes to just a few more people realizing that this is a really, really big fundamental problem in our society, that, as you say, we need to address the root cause of it, then, again, maybe some good can come out of this outside of just feeding people who are in urgent need.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. There was something else I was going to add to that, but I just wanted to remind people who are watching, because I see there's quite a few people watching now. If you wanted to ask your own questions, then feel free. You can just type them in the comment box in YouTube, or type them in the comments and Facebook, wherever you're watching from. You can send in your comments, and I'm sure Jo and Antonia will be more than happy to address them. It doesn't have to be a question. It could just be something like, "Well done, guys, you're great." Give them some moral support. But thank you so much, everyone who's watching, for joining us, and please do join in the conversation as well. Antonia, just on your last point, I think it's really true. I think when people see good things happening, when people see people doing the right thing, they often will mimic that and do and act in the same way. So people see this incredible food bank aid. I think it's on people's radar. There's something I can do. I can contribute. I can I can get involved as well. So even though it may seem small, there's a ripple effect, and people do act in similar ways, for good and for bad. So it's really
and
about,
also, it goes to show that, I mean, Jo's dedicated so much of her time to this, but for those who can't or don't want to give that much time, you can still have quite a big impact by giving some food every week, which doesn't take very long and still means that you're able to get involved. So that, I think, is great as well, and it's a great part of the whole model that you've created, Jo, is that actually people can get involved at all sort of levels, exactly, and be as involved or as uninvolved as they want to be.
I mean, our whole thing is we've tried to make it as easy as possible for everyone to give and to help. As you say, you can do it at any level. You can drive around for us and deliver if you've got a car. You can shop for us. You can donate money if you wanted to. You can give to your local. We've got 40 drop-off points across North London. You can give to your local drop-off point. You can help us with admin if you really wanted to. We're trying to build our website. We're trying to build the database. There's loads of stuff there to make us a kind of more efficient and professional organisation. There's absolutely loads to do. Sorting in our central hub, everything that comes in gets sorted out. As you saw on that ITV clip, you can see all our bins, our filled up bins. So Naomi's garage now looks like a supermarket depot, which is exactly what she wanted, I'm sure. And everything gets sorted, and then we go through and give, as you say, Antonia, give the food banks exactly what they need. Every food bank will tell you that all they get in the main, if it was left to the general public, they would get pasta, baked beans and tin soup, because that's what everyone thinks is good to give. It is good to give, but actually what we try and do is give people, we have people saying, we've got gluten-free people, or we've got dairy intolerances, and we do cater for all of those people, and it's toiletries and things that people can't afford to buy, and laundry tablets and this and that. So that's really important to us, that we give people what they need, and nappies and formula. There's loads.
I find with giving, just giving in general, yes, you're making a huge impact on the person that you're giving to, but you're making a big impact on yourself as well. I think what's that saying? When you give, you get, and there's a really good feeling that comes as a result of that selflessness of giving of oneself, whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's food, whatever it may be. I think it has a genuine impact on the one that's giving it. So even if it's a small tin of tuna dropped off at the food bin, outside wherever it is in Hadley Wood, that makes a big impact on the person giving as well. For me, it's been incredible that I get to see members who I wouldn't have otherwise really got to see, because they're turning up and I give them a wave and we say a socially distant hi, and it's been a great way of the community getting together as well. So in addition to the fact that we're contributing to an incredible cause, I think there's so many fringe benefits or bonuses that we have alongside that as well.
You have also, I'd just like to publicly thank you for getting behind this and, really supporting this in our community, and also doing things that nobody knows about, things like replacing the wheels on the new wheelie bin when it arrived and started going down your drive. And you had to put brakes on it. This is going above and beyond the rabbinical cause. So thank you. I'm enormously. I
never learned how to replace wheels in rabbi school, but when the bin first turned up, I couldn't believe it, but it came without brakes. So, and my, my driveway's on a bit of a slope. So when I first put it outside the house, it kept on rolling down the hill. I thought, oh my gosh, people are coming on Monday, and I've already told everyone there's this brand new bin coming. And how on earth is this gonna
I just
work?
thought the people living opposite you might think we were all really generous and just throwing food at them.
I was really imagining all the lawsuits, of whatever could have happened as a result.
Anyway, no, thank you though.
So I quickly went on Amazon, found the right wheels, did some handy work in my garage, and somehow managed to replace them with the ones with brakes. But it was quite a fun exercise, something to do during lockdown.
Learn a new skill.
I'll let you know if we have any other bin related issues.
Okay. Rabbi, /bin. Definitely. Jack of all trades, Rabbi of all trades. I see someone's actually put a question up over here. So let me just put it up on the screen. This is from Debbie Goldie. You're doing such an amazing job. Do you have a website or a list of collection points? It would make it easy to pass the word on around North London to Jewish and non-Jewish friends.
Very good question, Debbie. Thank you very much for asking. So we do not have a website at the moment, but it is in the process. We are currently in the process also of registering as a charity. And with all of that, hopefully will come our website and things like that. But we have a Facebook group, which is Food Bank Aid North London. You can join, and because our drop-off points are all people's homes, we don't publish them on a public forum. But if you want to contact us through the Facebook page or by emailing foodbankaid@gmail.com, you just let us know where you live and we'll let you know the nearest drop-off point. And we always publish our lists every week. I normally do it on a Sunday morning, sometimes on a Friday, which will tell you what we need that particular week. And the drop-off points all stay the same. So once you know where your drop-off point is, you can just give there. And also so that's published every week. Yes, well done. Look at that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm very impressed.
We can add that and your Facebook group onto our Facebook group and the WhatsApp group that we've got. So the list goes out on the women's Kabbalah group and also the Hadley Wood Jewish Community together.
That would be amazing.
Every Sunday we send those lists.
That would be brilliant. And there's also, if you get in touch with me, or one of us through either email or on the Facebook group, or we're on Instagram, which is foodbankaid_NL, North London. I will send you whatever you need. We've got flyers, we've got posters, we've got street collection leaflets where you can literally send it out onto street collection, there you go. That's our Instagram. You can send it on a lot of streets now. I've got their own WhatsApp groups. I find mine has my 3 of my roads near me. And that's how I get my donations into my drop-off point. It is just the best way. So every week I will say, this is what we need. So there are plenty of ways to follow what we're doing and to get involved, if that answers your question. And one day we'll have a website.
Yeah. Special hello, by the way, to Debbie. Thank you for watching. Let's think. So we're just coming to the end over here. Just a few minutes left. I think we've pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover, and it's been incredible just to hear. Like I said from the beginning, how it's a shame that Naomi wasn't able to come on and share this, from her own mouth. But how one person just had this idea, as you said, was it Pesach time? She went with the idea. And now it's doing incredible things. And I think anyone really, if they are passionate about something and they really feel the responsibility to do that something as well, then it can happen. And it's inspiring to see what people can do during lockdown as well. And as a community, we don't have to have our own ideas, but we can jump on other people's ideas and really contribute in that way as well. So it's really been incredible to be able to join and in a small way to do whatever you're doing. And thank you, Antonia, as well for bringing it to our community.
Thank you.
Continuing to.
I honestly am just a conduit, but I think it's amazing how it's been growing in our community, and I look forward to coming in and collecting everything on Wednesday and seeing that huge bin overflowing.
Well, it pretty much almost was overflowing on Wednesday. I think if it was collected on Thursday, it might have been overflowing. So we're definitely.
I think I'm going to have to get a bigger car.
Antonia, where are you taking it? Are you taking it straight to the hub? I don't even know.
No, I take it to in Finchley. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. Lovely. It's amazing.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to go to the hub, I don't think, because of the COVID restrictions and the limits. And so,
yeah, I'm sure we can find, if you wanted to go, I'm sure we can find a good time for you to go.
Okay.
Because yes, but whatever suits you.
I'll go anywhere anyone wants me to.
Can I just say, on behalf of everyone at Food Bank Aid, thank you so much. I mean, genuinely, everyone says thank you to us, but without any of you, we wouldn't have anything. So without volunteers, without people donating, there would be no Food Bank Aid. So on behalf of the food banks and on behalf of Naomi and myself, thank you. Really, thank you.
Pleasure. And just to wrap up, Antonia, were you going to say something over there?
No, I was just going to say, I think they've done incredible. Have done and do the most amazing job.
Yeah, no, here, they definitely do. I'm going to wrap up. I just wanted to, once again, thank you both for coming on. I know what it's like. I have young kids myself, and just to get some time in the evening away from all the craziness, the last thing sometimes people want to do is come on and do a call like this. It's a time to just put your feet up and relax. So thank you for sacrificing your relaxing time to come on over here and share with us. And thank you for everything you both do. Wishing you the best of luck with all of your future endeavors. And, just on behalf of the community, thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me
as well. Bye-bye. Have a good night.